At Min's Bistro, owner David Min decided to go undercover in his own restaurant on a rainy evening. Dressed in a hoodie, jeans, and a baseball cap, he entered Min's Bistro, which had once been the crown jewel of his career but now felt distant. The restaurant was bustling, with servers darting between tables, couples whispering over their meals, and families laughing with dessert in hand. David took a seat in a corner booth, his eyes scanning the room. His attention was abruptly caught by the hushed conversation of two boys behind him. "Do you think we'll see him?" one boy, Jake, asked nervously. "I don't know," replied the other, Ethan, his voice tense. "But Mom said this is where he usually comes." David's heart raced as he listened. Who were they talking about? He pretended to study the menu, but his ears were fixed on their conversation. "Mom said he messed everything up," Jake continued. "If it wasn't for him, we wouldn't be living like this." David felt a mix of confusion and anxiety. These words felt too personal. Could they be talking about him? He tried to stay calm as a waitress approached. "What would you like to order?" she asked with a friendly smile. "Oh, the special of the day," David responded, keeping his voice steady. As soon as she left, David leaned back, straining to hear more. "Mom said he ruined her life," Ethan said, his voice trembling. "He took everything from her." David was unsettled, the accusations striking deep. He decided he couldn't just sit there, he needed answers. His hands clenched into fists, his face paling as he turned around, attempting to join the conversation. "Hey," David said gently, his hands in his pockets to appear non-threatening. "I couldn't help but notice you two seem uneasy. Is everything all right?" Jake and Ethan tensed, their eyes meeting his. "We're fine," Jake said defensively. David nodded, feigning ignorance of the edge in Jake's voice. "That's good. I just thought maybe, if you're looking for someone, I might know them." The boys exchanged a glance, Ethan fidgeting nervously while Jake squared his shoulders. "Why do you care?" Jake asked, his tone defensive. David paused, considering his next move without revealing his identity. "I just thought I might be able to help if you're looking for someone." Jake narrowed his eyes, studying David, then suddenly his expression changed. "Wait a second," he said slowly. "You look familiar." David's heart sank. He forced a small laugh. "A lot of people say that. I must have one of those faces." "No," Jake insisted, his voice rising. "You're him. You're David Min." Ethan gasped, his face paling. "Are you serious? Is it really him?" David felt like the ground was slipping away. There was no denying it now. "Yes," he admitted quietly. "I'm David Min. But how do you know who I am?" "Because of what you did to our mom," Jake said, his green eyes blazing with anger. "Your mom?" David was taken aback, his mind racing back to his early days, trying to piece together any memory of Emily Carter. "I'm sorry, but I don't even know who." "Yes, you do," Jake snapped, cutting him off. "Emily Carter, remember her?" The name hit David like a thunderbolt. Emily Carter, a passionate sous chef, eager to make her mark but who had left abruptly without explanation. He hadn't thought about her in years, but now images of her in the kitchen, vibrant and full of ideas, flashed before his eyes. "Emily," David said slowly, the name heavy on his tongue. "She worked here, didn't she?" Jake's jaw tightened. "She didn't just work here, she gave everything to this place. She helped you build it, and what did you do? You stole from her, you took her recipes and claimed them as your own. You made sure she couldn't get hired anywhere else. She told us everything." David stared at the boys, his mind reeling. "That's not true," he said, his voice trembling. "I never." "Why would she think that?" "Because it's the truth," Jake shot back. "You ruined her life, you ruined our lives." Ethan, quieter, finally spoke up. "She said you were jealous of her, that you couldn't handle someone else getting the spotlight." David felt like he'd been punched in the gut. Had he been so blind to his ambition that he hadn't noticed her fall? He needed to understand, to make amends if possible. I need to talk to your mom, David said firmly but calmly. If what she told you is true, I need to hear it from her. Please, will you let me talk to her? The boys exchanged a wary glance. Finally, Jake said, She's not here right now, but if you really want to know the truth, you'll have to come see us. David nodded, his heart heavy. Then I will. The drive to their modest apartment complex was filled with raindrops and introspection. The building was old and worn, contrasting sharply with David's usual surroundings. As he stood under the dim porch light, guilt washed over him. If what the boys said was true, he owed Emily more than just an apology, he owed her an explanation. Jake opened the door, his expression guarded. You came, he said, his voice a mix of surprise and distrust. David nodded. I need to understand what happened. Where's your mom? Jake hesitated, then stepped aside. She's in the living room. The apartment was small but tidy, filled with warmth from family photos and the scent of jasmine. David's eyes landed on Emily Carter, sitting on the couch, her once vibrant hair now streaked with gray, her eyes tired but still sharp. Emily, David said softly. She looked up, her expression shifting between shock and resentment. David Min. I can't say I expected to see you here. David moved closer, his voice earnest. Emily, I didn't know it was you. The boys told me what you said about what happened. I need to know, did I really hurt you that badly? Emily's eyes narrowed, setting the remote aside. You don't remember, do you? She asked bitterly. Of course you don't. People like you never do. Emily, I'm not here to argue, David said, his voice breaking slightly. I honestly don't remember doing anything that could have destroyed your life. Please tell me what happened. You want the short version? Fine. You took credit for my work. All those dishes that made Min's Bistro famous, most of them were mine. I trusted you, David. I thought you were mentoring me, helping me grow, but you were just using me. David's brow furrowed, memories of those early days flashing through his mind. Emily, that's not how I remember it. You were part of the team, an important part, but I never claimed your work as my own. No? Emily's voice rose. Then why did every article about Min's Bistro mention your name and only your name? Why did you ignore my contributions, and when I confronted you, what did you do? You blacklisted me. No one would hire me after I left. David's stomach churned. Blacklisted Emily? I didn't. I would never. Yes, you did, she said, her voice trembling with anger. I tried to get jobs at every major restaurant in the city, and every time I was turned away. It was like you put a mark on my name. I had to leave the industry entirely, and now I'm here, barely getting by with a job that doesn't come close to what I was capable of. All because of you. David's heart sank. He hadn't been aware of any blacklisting, but that didn't mean it hadn't happened. Reflecting on his early days, filled with ambition and mistakes, he wondered if he had accidentally crushed Emily's career. I didn't know, David said quietly. Emily, I swear to you, if I had known, if I had realized how my actions were affecting you, I would have done something. Emily laughed bitterly. It's too late for that, David. The damage is done. The weight of her words lingered. David glanced at the boys, their expressions mixed. His resolve hardened. It's not too late, he said firmly. I can't undo the past, but I can try to make things right now. Emily, you're an incredible chef. If you're willing, I'd like to offer you a position at Min's Bistro, a senior position with the credit and recognition you deserve. Emily's eyes widened, but her expression hardened. You think you can just buy my forgiveness with a job? She asked, her voice shaking. No, David shook his head. This isn't about buying forgiveness. It's about giving you the opportunity you should have had from the start. I can't erase what I did, Emily, but I want to help you get back to doing what you love. You don't have to forgive me, but please, at least think about it. Emily stared at him, her emotions warring. Finally, she exhaled deeply, her shoulders slumping. I don't know, David. I don't know if I can trust you. You don't have to decide right now, David said. Take your time, but whatever you decide, I want you to know I'm sorry, truly. Emily's expression softened slightly. I'll think about it, she said quietly. David nodded, feeling a flicker of hope as he turned to leave. Jake's voice stopped him. Hey, Jake said, his tone less hostile. Do you really mean it about helping her? David turned back, meeting Jake's gaze. I do, he said sincerely. Your mom deserves that much and more. Jake studied him, then gave a small nod. Okay, we'll see. As David stepped out into the drizzle, his emotions were a whirlwind of guilt, relief, and purpose. The journey to redemption would be long, but he was ready to walk it. Over the next few days, David was consumed by thoughts of Emily and her sons. It wasn't just guilt, it was a deep responsibility. His success was built on others' efforts, and his ambition had left scars. Now, it was time for action. In his office at Min's Bistro, David reviewed his notes from his meeting with Emily, pondering how he could have missed the signs of her distress. He couldn't change the past, but he could shape the future. His first call was to an old industry contact, Michael. Michael, do you remember Emily Carter? David asked, leaning back. Emily? Michael's voice was surprised. Yeah, of course. She was one of the most promising chefs I've seen. What happened to her? David paused, the weight of his past actions heavy on his shoulders. I made mistakes, and she paid the price. I need to make it right. Michael listened, then advised. If you're serious, get her story out there. The industry needs to know what she's capable of. David agreed, setting his plan into motion. He contacted food critics, media, and industry leaders, sharing Emily's contributions and talents. He crafted a new role for her at the restaurant, co-head chef with full creative control. A week later, Emily returned to Min's Bistro. The staff, now aware of her story, greeted her with respect. David met her at the door, his expression earnest. Thank you for coming, he said. Emily nodded stiffly. I almost didn't, but Jake and Ethan convinced me to hear you out. David smiled. Your boys are smart. You raised them well. Emily's expression softened slightly. They're good kids, and they want me to be happy, even if I'm not sure I can trust you yet. I understand, David said. And I don't expect your trust right away, but I hope you'll give me the chance to prove I'm serious. In the kitchen, David outlined his proposal: the co-head chef role, creative freedom, and public acknowledgement of her work. He showed her the draft press release. Emily read it, her face unreadable. When she looked up, her eyes glistened. I never thought I'd hear you say any of this, she admitted. It's a lot to take in, I know, David said. Take all the time you need, but I want you to know how much I regret the past. Emily was silent, then extended her hand. Let's see if we can make this work. David shook her hand, relief washing over him. I won't let you down. Rebuilding trust was challenging, but with time, the tension eased. They created new dishes together, blending their styles. The restaurant thrived, praised for its innovation and their partnership. One evening, as the kitchen buzzed with activity, David found Emily smiling by the stove. What's so funny? He asked, curious about the light in her eyes. I was just thinking about how far we've come, Emily said, her smile growing. If you told me a month ago, I wouldn't have believed it. David chuckled, feeling the warmth of the moment. Honestly, neither would I, but I'm glad you're here. The place feels complete now. Emily nodded, thoughtful. It's not perfect, but it's a start. As months passed, David saw the restaurant not just as a business but as a community, a tapestry woven from the lives and talents of those who work there. Emily's return was a stark reminder of the value of every individual's contribution. Jake and Ethan became frequent visitors, their initial distrust turning into curiosity and pride. They watched Emily's confidence bloom with each dish she crafted, witnessing her reclaim her place in the culinary world. They started helping out during busy nights, learning the business from the ground up, their bitterness toward David slowly transforming into respect. One evening, as they sat at a table near the kitchen, David approached with a smile. "You know," he said, "your mom is one of the best chefs I've ever worked with. You should be proud of her." Jake looked at him, his expression serious but softening. "We are," he said. Then, after a pause, he added with a hint of a smile, "And I guess we were wrong about you, a little." David laughed, ruffling Jake's hair. "I'll take it." For the first time in years, David felt a sense of peace. He knew he couldn't erase the mistakes of the past, but redemption wasn't about perfection, it was about effort, learning, and growth. Watching Emily and her sons sharing laughter in the same space that once held so much pain, David realized this was just the beginning of a new chapter. In the weeks that followed, Min's Bistro became more than just a place for dining, it was a narrative of reconciliation and community. David took steps to ensure that the restaurant was not only a testament to culinary art but also to fairness and recognition. He started a mentorship program for young chefs, ensuring they had the support and acknowledgement he realized Emily had lacked. Emily, for her part, found joy in teaching the new staff, sharing her knowledge and experiences, shaping the future of the restaurant in a way that was inclusive and supportive. Her influence was visible in the team's enthusiasm and the innovative dishes on the menu, which now bore her name alongside David's. David and Emily's partnership wasn't without its bumps. There were moments of friction, reminders of old resentments, but they navigated these with open communication, learning from each other. They introduced Emily's Night at the Bistro, a weekly event where she would showcase her unique recipes, drawing crowds and critical acclaim. Jake and Ethan grew fond of the restaurant, not just for their mother's success but for the sense of belonging it gave them. Their involvement helped them understand the complexities of running a business, and their initial bitterness turned into a bond with David, who had become a figure of redemption in their eyes. One quiet evening, as the last of the diners left, David and Emily sat together at a table, sharing a glass of wine. The restaurant was silent, save for the soft clinking of glasses being cleared. "I never thought we'd get here," Emily said, looking around at the place they had both poured so much of themselves into. "Neither did I," David replied, his gaze following hers. "But I'm glad we did. You brought back the soul of this place, Emily." Emily smiled, a genuine smile that reached her eyes. "And you gave me a chance to find mine again." "Thank you, David." David nodded, his heart full. "Thank you for teaching me that it's never too late to make things right." They sat in companionable silence for a moment, each reflecting on their journey from estrangement to partnership, from pain to healing. As they stood to leave, David glanced at the photos on the wall, including one new addition, a picture of Emily, Jake, and Ethan, all smiling, taken on opening night of Emily's Night. It was a symbol of how far they had come, a testament to growth, forgiveness, and the power of second chances. "I think we should plan for more events like Emily's Night," David suggested, breaking the silence. "Maybe expand the mentorship program too. What do you think?" Emily nodded, her eyes lighting up with the possibilities. "I think it's a wonderful idea. Let's give others the opportunities we wish we had."